Welcome in YouTube, XLaw804, and today I wanted to share my initial thoughts on the DMZ mode that launched alongside Warzone 2.0. As someone who's played Tarkov for 2 years, I don't think it's something that can be compared to that game. I know a lot of people thought it was going to be the Tarkov killer, but I don't really think that's what it's here to do. I don't think the devs were really aiming to mirror Tarkov in any way. I think they just wanted to make something in that genre, which is the looter shooter extraction genre, and give their own spin on it. And for what it is, I think they did a good job. COD is known for how easy it is to jump in and play the game. It's a very arcade shooter. It's, very turn your brain off type game and have fun. It's not supposed to be really demanding like those other games. I'm going to make a separate video talking about ways to improve DMZ, but for now, I just want to dive into the pros and cons of like the first kind of 50 playthroughs or so that I've had of the mode since it's been out. So let's go ahead and dive in, which is the first thing, is that it's very easy. You just put on a gun, put on some equipment, your flashbang, maybe Simtex or C4, whatever you want to put on. And you queue up, you matchmake if you want to, and the next thing you know, you're in the game. Load times are super fast, which is really nice. So if your squad gets wiped for whatever reason, in other games it can take time to, put your gear on, set yourself up, and go back in. But in COD, you just kind of click, you put your stuff on, and you can bounce back really fast, which is good. And speaking of dying, it's not too hard to get back on your feet if you die, because in other games when you die, it feels like you have to go in and get X amount of loot to make up for your last loss. But on here, it's not so bad. At most, you'll lose like your insured gun, the large backpack, assuming you got one, and like the 3-plate carrier vest, which is like the maximum amount of plates or maximum amount of armor you can have. But the way the game is built, it's pretty easy to get those things back. Playing the game and getting out will help you get your insured gun back. The armor plate vest, you can get lucky and find one, or you can save up to about 35k for the 3-plate armor vest, 30k for the large backpack. Those are like really the two things that you want to have with you every time you go in, but if you die and you can't, it's not super hard to get those things back, and that's nice. It saves you a lot of time. The contracts, which are littered across the map, you have like your safe cracking, saving hostages, taking down high value targets. There's a lot of variety in the contracts, which is nice. I was kind of worried that it would be kind of stale. And technically you are just going here, killing that, defending this, capturing that. I mean, you still are doing those things, but it's pretty straightforward. They didn't overcomplicate it at all, and I think that's really nice. Looting feels really good. I thought it was going to be a pain in the ass to kind of navigate through menus and stuff like that to, loot. But it's actually super straightforward, very easy to do, and I'm glad it is because it's the core thing of the game mode is looting. So like if they were to do a bad job with the UI like they kind of did with the multiplayer menu, then that would be frustrating because you're going to be doing that a lot throughout the mode, but that's not the case. So I'm glad that looting feels good. I don't think there's too many items. I feel like there's a good balance of things you don't really care for and things that you do want to pick up. And it's not like rocket science on, oh, should I take this over that? There's no Tetris or anything like that when it comes to your bag. It's just kind of one item per slot, and some things do stack, which is cool. AI for the most part feels good. Sometimes you can like open up a door and just get lasered out of nowhere, but that usually happens at strongholds. I don't normally get lasered when I'm roaming in between strongholds. The AI is fairly accurate, and if you stay out in the open for too long, you could go down, but I don't think it's too bad in terms of like AI difficulty. In areas where the loot is the best, they're a bit more dangerous, but in areas where there's not really a lot going on, you're not going to just die out of nowhere, and that feels good. I will say that the amount of ads, or the AI ads, soldiers, whatever you want to call it, AI enemies, the amount of how they're spread out across the map feels pretty good. I will say that sometimes they'll keep spawning in and over again, which is kind of, depending on how much time you have left, it can kind of get overwhelming and kind of screw you over. But for the most part, it's pretty good. They're spread out pretty well. They don't have enough of an impact to completely overwhelm you as long as you're playing relatively smart. I kind of like where the AI is. I will say I hope they get to a point where the AI does cool stuff, like maybe what if the AI pulls out an LMG and he's kind of like keeping you pinned and covered while one of them loops around, or maybe one of them throws a flashbang and the other pushes in. That kind of stuff would be cool, and it would kind of make you think more as you're playing, because when you're playing modes like DMZ, you think bots are really simple. You just kind of turn your brain off, but you kind of don't want to. You kind of want to have something that's shooting back at you that's relatively dangerous. Like I think Tarkov kind of does a good job of, or I guess it's kind of really hit or miss in Tarkov. But the AI, can be scary on Tarkov, and I feel like in DMZ, the AI can be somewhat scary here, but it would still be nice to see them like make plays, and you have to use your brain, like, oh, they're about to do this, I need to do that. Like a rock, paper, scissors type thing with the AI would be nice. I'd also like for them to have more specialized units. I know snipers aren't technically new, but maybe adding snipers to rooftops would make you think twice about crossing open areas. The shield units are already in the strongholds. We don't need any more shields out on the streets. But what if they added, units that threw smoke grenades and they had like the thermal so that they could like shoot you good smokes? There's room for improvement with adding a variety of enemies, because right now they just look different and they use different guns, but they all behave the same way. So it would be interesting if there were different types of units, or maybe even different types of factions. As the game suggests, there's different groups. The Legion group, for example, White Lotus group, maybe have them occupy different parts, and maybe there could be fighting, small in-game events between the different factions fighting out in the Al Mazrah area. That would be really cool. The amount of players that are present on the map feels pretty good right now. It doesn't feel like there's too little. Usually per run, I'll run into 2 to 3 groups of players, and I'm usually in and out. Like, I think the clock is usually about 20. I try to be out the door around 5, or if I can. And I usually run into 2 to 3 groups, and they're usually about 3 people or so between versus my group of 3. So it doesn't feel too out of place. I don't feel like I'm getting overwhelmed by like 6 mans. That is a new feature they added, which I thought was cool, but not something I'll be doing myself. I would be interested if they added modes and they increased how many players are on the map to maybe have more PvP opportunities. But for where it's at right now, if you're just trying to explore and you want to kill AI, level up guns and stuff, I feel like seeing 2 to 3 groups isn't too bad for 64 people. So yeah, but I'm open to them increasing it just to kind of see what happens. It's a nice little surprise when you're looting and you look out a door and you say, oh, is that a player? And then next thing you know, you guys are running at each other and you're PvPing and all that good stuff, and proximity chat is really cool. So yeah. The missions, which are the things that you would activate before you go into a run, are pretty straightforward as well. You're noticing a theme here, how a lot of things are straightforward because they're trying to keep it very simple, very casual for people to just jump in and do it. And I think the missions do a good job of maintaining that energy. Just pick this thing up, extract with this, go here, blow this up, do these type of contracts. The missions, they're not bad. They're definitely not overwhelming by any means. They're pretty, they're pretty straightforward, and I kind of like where they're at. Things like the radiation zone and a weapon case jug, which if you haven't seen, I'll put up on the screen now. But you have a radiation zone where you have to have a gas mask when you go in. There may or may not be a boss in there. The AI in those zones typically are heavily armored, which is cool. They're just a little more dangerous, so kind of there's better loot there, so the risk is worth the reward. The weapons case is being carried by a juggernaut, so you have to go up and fight a juggernaut with you by yourself or your team. You kill the juggernaut. Other players see that, they can go after you if they want to. But if not, you just extract with it, and that's kind of cool. I would like to see more kind of hotspots in a sense, like the people fighting over the weapon case, people fighting each other to kill the boss, or if a player kills the boss, another group shows up to fight that player and then take the special weapon and get out. So I would like to see them add maybe 1 to 2 more things on the map, like a hotspot thing that players would be wanting to fight over. I don't think it needs to be oversaturated because then nobody runs into each other, but I think having more than 2 would probably have a little bit more PvP. Those 2 items tend to be in the middle or south part of the map. There's nothing really to the north or to the west side of the map, so it would be nice if something was put there that players could also fight over as well. And I think that does it for the pros. Because of how streamlined and simple the mode is, there isn't a ton to talk about, although I did feel like I talked about a lot. I feel like because it's so streamlined, there isn't a lot of feedback or a lot I can say to it other than I like it. So let's go ahead and dive into the cons. And I will say that I know there's plenty of bugs. I've seen all kinds of crazy things. I've seen helicopters phase through buildings and like they get stuck and it like almost causes the server to crash and blah 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 blah. I know they'll fix those issues. So, and I, you know, those were unexpected things. I feel like the only things that we should be talking about are what they knew were going to happen, or like decisions they made on how the gameplay should go. So that being said, let's get into the cons. And I only have two, but they're big ones, and I feel like they could hurt the game long term. The first one being that there is not a lot of value to items after you get the large backpack and after you get the 3-plate armor vest. Now, the reason I say that is because if you look at the shop, the other options are kind of, there's contraband weapons, which are just like a handful of guns that have like a few attachments on them, like 2 to 3. And it's only like 9 different guns or so, maybe 6 I think. It's not a lot. But those guns don't look very appealing, especially if you're bringing in your own gun. And the other items that are there are, I'm just trying to think for a second. You know, like advanced UAV is not bad. That's one of the better items you take out, but you don't need it. Self-revive, I mean, that's not bad, but it's only 7,500. And if you've been running around doing contracts, looting, you know, you might have like 60K on you, you know, you might have a lot of cash. And if you buy all the stuff from the station, the buy station, which you may not want to spend money on a car or a stronghold key, because, you know, the guards, the AI, they drop those keys for you, you know, you end up having a lot of money that you can't really do anything with. And then once you have those items, it's like, okay, I have all this money, I have the gear, you know, what do I do now? And I know that your money can translate over to your insured weapons. So for those of you who don't know, if you die and you lose your gun, if you extract the money, it reduces the cooldown on said gun that you lost. Which, I mean, if you're relatively decent at the game, you know, you're going to make it out quite a few times anyway. So you'll use the gun multiple times, you'll kill other players, you'll take their guns, and you'll have other guns you can use. So I don't feel like that part of the game is critical. So it's kind of like, if you have all the gear and you're not actively chasing a mission, it's kind of like, what are you doing? You know, like, do you continue looting if the money doesn't have any real value other than cooldowns? Which if there's nothing on cooldown, you know, why pick up the money? So that's kind of my worry, is that like once players get better at the game, you know, why pick up, like, why loot? You know, why play DMZ mode for the level 3 armor and a large backpack if you don't really have anything in there that you want to put in? Well, you might find stuff, it's just, what are you doing with that stuff? So I kind of feel like there needs to be a way for them to figure out like ways to keep someone playing if they have everything there is to buy. Like, they need to find a way to make money viable outside of the immediate game session that you're playing in, because like once you're out of the game, once you're out of the mission and you're back in the menus, that money you collected is gone and it doesn't have any real value, in my opinion. The second big thing is the missions, which the missions have you go in there, pick this up, pick that up, you know, extract with this, you know, go visit places, and they're like, the missions, they're okay, like they're for a casual looter shooter extraction experience. The missions that they provide you are okay. There's nothing wrong with the missions. I don't have any issues with the missions themselves. I mean, I wish the rewards were a little bit better. Just for example, you know, maybe completing a mission, instead of it giving you a sticker or something like that, what if you completed this mission and now there's a new option at the buy station? You know, maybe you could buy a perk, or, you know, insert whatever you want. But having like a new option unlocked at the buy station would make you really want to go back and get that mission done, because there's a pretty reasonable bonus to getting it done. Whereas the way it is now, you get stickers and you kind of get like small calling cards and emblems, and it's just kind of like, yeah, you know, Tarkov kind of has the same issue where, like, well, I take that back. Tarkov, when you do quests and stuff, you unlock items that you can then purchase and then go into the game with. So there is value to doing Tarkov's missions, but not so much Call of Duty's. So once you get through them, there really isn't anything to do, and there's not really anything to show for them. So it would be nice if they found a way to give more meaning to the missions. Now, not every single one has to be like something new at the buy station, but if some of them could have impact on like the long term of the game, you know, like I said, being able to buy a perk. So like if you do that mission going forward, every time you go in, there's the option to buy that perk, and you can see the, you know, that you get to reap that reward. So those are my two big things, because I feel like if you're not going in to do a mission and you're not going in there to loot because you have all the money, you have the gear, you know, your only other option is to either do it knowing it's not worth it, or chase down other players, which you could just go to Warzone mode and you could just do that there. You could just PvP there. So yeah, that's about it. I would like to know what you guys think about the mode. Do you feel the same about the pros and cons? I know there's a lot of minor things that is cool about the game, like, you know, going to the gas station and repairing your car. There's other small stuff like that that's really cool. But I'd love to know what you guys think about the game, what you think about the cons. And again, I will make another video just about ideas on how they can improve the DMZ mode and make it better. So please come check it out. Then if you like the video, drop a like, you know, give a sub if you can. If not, have a great day. Bye.